Hi Reject Nation, Greg Alba here.
John Hump.
So on Patreon, one of our reward tiers is whatever video you request we must definitely do. A good friend of ours who has also become one of our top patrons. It's nice to have friends like that who pledge a lot of money to your channel.
Friends who pay you. In all seriousness, though. Which is a really surreal way to live.
Jason Dolan, who was a screenwriter for the film Vanishing of City Hall, actually read a screenplay for this vampire flick he wrote, and is really cool. I was genuinely surprised. When you live in LA, you BS a lot of people, and that was one where I'm like, you know, I really did enjoy. Like, I found myself up all night reading it, as opposed to I'm gonna take this 10 pages a day. This is like I'm just gonna breeze
this on the toilet.
I breezed through it. Jason Dolan, his video request is something that no patrons ever requested before. A trailers revisited for a film that we fortunately watched again
just a few days ago.
Yeah, just
with
last
JT.
with JT and April Dawn. Perfect time to request this, buddy. And if you guys don't know what trailers revisited is on this channel, look at a trailer for a movie we've already seen. You know, since trailers are such a big part of our lives, and the relationship between marketing and movies is such a big talk, we like to determine how accurately portrayed was the movie based off its trailer.
Yeah.
Trailers revisited for Mission Impossible, the first one, because I don't remember the trailer at all.
No.
Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Phelps. This is your mission should you choose to accept it.
This is quiet.
Should you or any member of your IM force be caught or killed, the Secretary will disavow all knowledge of your actions.
Whoa.
Ethan Hunt will be your point man, as usual.
Cool
Good luck,
editing.
Jim.
Damn.
Is he serious?
Always.
It's much worse than you think. We're being ambushed. Abort, that's an order.
Whoa.
They knew we were coming. Do you read me? I don't care.
Whoa, I'm getting nipple chill.
Why he did it. You worried about me. Why you survived.
I'm sure we can find something I have that you
Creepy
know.
smile.
These guys are trained to be ghosts. Let's not waste time chasing after him. Just make him come to us. Find something that's personally important to him, and you squeeze.
Wait, I don't remember that scene.
Sweet?
Where he made out with John Voight's wife? I don't remember that.
This whole operation was a decoy. I can understand you're very upset. You've never seen me very upset.
You should watch him on the Today Show with Matt Lauer.
You're a flip. Oh, that's right.
They reveal he survives that.
Yeah. They reveal the very end of that action scene.
I gotta take this back a little bit and find that moment, because I want to make sure I didn't see that. That's totally a deleted scene. That's not in the movie. Remember there's one scene where she like kisses his hand and it's like, yeah. Who would have remembered that?
That's weird about that relationship, yeah.
That's a flat out not included in the movie scene. Now I'm sure you can speculate of why they cut that scene out. You know,
Wholesome American audiences couldn't handle something like that back in the 90s, man.
I don't know if you guys remember the movie that well, but on the train, he's trying to figure out, is she working with John Voight?
Yeah.
And then he figures it out, and he's all kind of disappointed in the situation.
Of course, I'm very sorry to hear you say that.
But the way he plays it out, if they had this scene, I kind of wouldn't have accepted his reaction to him finding out. It's more of like, oh, man, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Thank God I had sex with you the day before.
Yeah.
Because that has to be from that scene, right? Where she kisses his hand and they do it. That's what I'm imagining it's from.
I guess
Looks like
so.
it's from that moment. That adds an extra layer of context, but he was suspicious of her, and they established that. I think that would make Ethan Hunt look a little bad. I'm sure the intent was make her look worse by doing this, so the traitor effect is even heavier.
Because she let him on.
I think Ethan Hunt suspecting and knowing John Voight's alive, unless that occurred before he finds out John Voight's alive. Trailers Revisited became a whole other thing here. Yeah. I like the trailer. What I find fascinating about the theme song versus the movies, there's only one movie I feel that truly matches the theme song.
Part 2.
Part 2, man. That slow-ass movie.
It only gets cool, like, towards the very end.
Part 4. Ghost Protocol is not my favorite Mission Impossible movie, but if there's one that feels like the theme song throughout, it's that movie.
That's the most, like, rollicking adventure that's the most fun.
Yeah.
You know?
And because this one is a dark spy, hardcore Brian De Palma film.
Yeah, and I had forgotten just how much it's that until we watched it again.
I was surprised when we were watching it that this is kind of a menacing feeling.
Yeah, there's a foreboding sense, and it's more grounded than you associate Mission Impossible with, even though they do some outlandish things, you know?
Yeah. They do some outlandish things, but it is more grounded. It's less on action sequences.
There's something, like, thrilling and fun about that theme music that just isn't, the same tone.
Because when it occurs in the movie, it's cool, but I can only remember one specific scene where it really played an effect, and that's when he's on the helicopter. Red light! Green light! Yeah. That moment worked really well and does garner some serious nip shells.
Serious nip shells on the back of the DVD.
When I'm watching this trailer, I'm looking at these images, I'm like, the theme song doesn't match with those actual scenes, though, because it's really a very kind of suspenseful,
deliberate kind of
and one of those spy movies where you really have to pay attention.
Yeah.
Or else you're going to be very confused.
The knock list.
I had to ask a few times with the group of, wait, what's going on? Because I'm kind of used to 3, 4, and 5. It's very simple laid out.
The stunts are complicated, but the plan is not that complicated.
Whereas this one, the spy stuff is very hard. And so the trailer is smart because it capitalizes on the intensity of cool sequences that they keep cutting around, like him falling, the times to run, the fish tank blowing up, the helicopter sequences, the train sequence. It's really cool. It's not a spoiler trailer, which is neat.
No, I mean, from just an editing point of view, it's interesting to look at this as compared to what we get now, because this is just like a lot of fast edits just showing you a whole bunch of different moments highlighting most of the action, the intrigue, the espionage.
Yeah.
And you don't get a whole lot of like scene stuff.
They don't reveal the most upsetting part of the movie for Mission Impossible TV show fans.
Nope.
Which is they all die at the beginning.
Wipe out the cast.
Then it becomes a Tom Cruise movie.
My team is dead!
It doesn't feel like a true team movie until Ghost Protocol. All these are based off of him going rogue.
You would think that IMF would just learn to trust him at some point.
He usually has a helping hand. Ving Rhames is usually there. Simon Pegg shows up. MI3, he has some help, but even then it still feels like a Tom Cruise vehicle. But Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol is when you feel the ensemble. This had more of a spy noir thriller feel, and that's not really conveyed in this trailer. I feel like they kind of make it look like a modern day for the 90s Bond
movie.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of how I remember the argument being at the time. It's like James Bond or Mission Impossible, and like looking back, they're kind of trying to do different things. I mean, there's a certain element of like future tech in Mission Impossible, but I feel like it's different from James Bond.
It's very different. I mean,
the timbre's different.
I think it's more clever. I think in terms of conveying the tone of the movie, it does a pretty good job. I think the first 30 seconds of this trailer, where it's actually like all quiet, there's no music in the background, is A, unique for a trailer, and B, it's more along the lines of what this movie feels like in the first half hour.
Yeah, kind of. It feels like it's going to take its time and be more
it does.
like a deliberate film.
I think the film is not as snappy or as like fun, because when the movie gets dark and the twists occur, it does have this kind of sinister undertone that is a little surprising, especially when you hear this theme song and what the franchise has become. The last thing you really associate with is that sinister undertone, but that's where the Brian De Palma touch comes in.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of a nice thing to make this particular movie, this installment, distinct, because like watching it back to the limitations of what was available to them in the 90s kind of made for the perfect scope. I think it's interesting that you have a lot of images from the movie overall, but it doesn't feel like it's spoiling stuff because they're so mixed up, and they're mostly just hinting with little lines of dialogue at the stakes. There's going to be like a betrayal of some point or a double cross of some point. They're basically just leading with the tension.
Like, exactly, because I think the writing, and not that this is supposed to be a review of Mission Impossible, but I just want to say, I think the writing of this one in some ways is some of the most clever out of the franchise.
It's the most of just a spy movie without the extra, like, crazy set pieces and bells and whistles.
Because when you think of the famous stunt where he's hanging, that stunt is, like, compared to what he does now, ain't a big deal. But when you watch the movie, it's intense.
It is.
Because of how they set up what he has to do. That when I watch it, I am there going, wow, this really is a scary situation.
It does sound impossible.
Yeah.
This whole vault where like everything is designed to protect you.
I mean, now he has to like fall out of the sky. But in that movie, he's like, he has to catch his sweat.
Well, yeah, it turns small stakes into huge stakes.
Yeah,
You know?
I think it really is fascinating to go back and re-examine not just this trailer, but go back and re-examine the movie because it adds even more layers to, wow, look at the evolution of this franchise.
That's the biggest impression that watching it again left on me is like, wow, things have changed over time.
Since 1996.
Yeah, and like this was still a good iteration of what this could be, even though it's grown into something kind of different.
And I feel like Christopher McQuarrie's kind of been bringing it back to something like this. Yeah, like a combination of what Ghost Protocol and MI3 introduced. Yeah, this was fun. Thanks for requesting this, Jason Dolan.
Yeah, I appreciate
because this was fun. It is cool to check out this trailer. What's your favorite Mission Impossible movie? Put it in the comments below and explain why. Also, leave some requests for trailers you visited. Love to hear your guys' thoughts. You guys can subscribe to the Reject Nation. Hey, click that notification bell because subscribe buttons are essentially broken. You can check us out on Patreon. Full-length TV show reactions, weekly Q&As, music video coverage. We'd love to have you become a Patronaject today.